Creating engaging content for your podcast should always be your main driving force. But don't forget about the importance of marketing. With over 1 billion monthly active users, Instagram is definitely one of the most popular social media platforms out there. So how can you take advantage of Instagram to grow your audience and skyrocket your podcast to success? Hey, this is Yvonne from Spreaker, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about how you can use social media, specifically Instagram, to promote your podcast and grow your audience. Now, if you find this video helpful, smash that like button and make sure to subscribe to the Spreaker YouTube channel. Before we get into our tips and tricks, the first thing that you need to ask is whether Instagram is the right platform for you and your podcast. Because the last thing that you want is to spend precious time and energy on something that isn't going to help you promote your podcast. So before jumping into creating a color-coordinated feed, ask yourself these two questions. Who is my target audience? And are they even on Instagram? Yes, Instagram is a great tool to grow your podcast audience, but not if the people you're trying to reach aren't even on there. So are your podcast listeners baby boomers or retirees? Well, then they probably aren't spending their nights swiping through reels. On the other hand, if your listeners are millennials, then Instagram is definitely the platform for you. Our advice? Do some research before picking what marketing channels you want to use to promote your podcast. Remember that you can't be everywhere at once, so make sure that you choose wisely. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, let's look at our 3 tips to promote your podcast on Instagram. Number 1, rock your Instagram bio. Now, the first thing a potential podcast fan will see or read is your Instagram bio. And unfortunately, you just have 150 characters to get them interested. And that's not a lot. Your Instagram bio is the place to summarize what you and your podcast are all about. And there are a couple of things that you can do to make sure that you stand out from the crowd. Now, if you didn't already know, Instagram actually acts a little bit like a self-containing search engine, which means that when you're choosing your display name, @username, and bio description, make sure that you first identify your keywords. What does that mean? Let's break it down with an example. Now open up your Instagram on desktop or your phone and type in the words lifestyle podcast. What will you see? You'll probably see the OK Sis podcast pop up. Their username is OK Sis podcast and their display name is lifestyle plus self-care podcast. Now, even though we didn't specifically type in OK Sis podcast, their podcast came up in the search results. This is because they added their keywords to their Instagram display name. So what does your podcast talk about? Is it branding or true crime? Include those keywords in the display name. This will make your name searchable. In the case of OK Sis, they added the keywords self-care and lifestyle along with the word podcast. Why? So that they can be found if someone types in lifestyle podcast or if someone types in self-care podcast. Now, next thing you need to do is make sure to add what is your podcast about. A quick summary of what listeners should expect is perfect. And if you'd like to, you can also add Instagram handles of the hosts to create more of a listener-host type of connection. Now, the last thing you want to make sure to do and to add is a call to action or CTA, right above the one clickable link that Instagram gives you. Quick tip, Instagram also gives you the ability to add clickable links in your stories, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. If you want to add more than one link, then there are a couple of free and paid options out there for you to check out. We'd recommend Linktree, Beacons, SendPlus, or even Canva. These tools create a landing page, online store, or link page for your social media bio. Okay, that was a lot of information. So let's go through it point by point. What does the perfect Instagram bio look like? Well, number 1, make sure to add keywords in your username and display name to help searchability. Number 2, add a short about us, answering the question, what should people expect when tuning into your podcast? Number 3, if you want, include accounts of the hosts so listeners can connect with each individual if they want to. And number 4, CTA or call to action. For example, listen to the latest episode now. If you want to include multiple links, check out the tools we've mentioned. We've also linked to them in the description. With multiple links, you can include things like a link to your podcast, a newsletter sign up, a Facebook group, or wherever you'd like to direct a potential listener. Now, our number 2 tip is visualize your feed and brand message. Your Instagram feed is the visual voice of your podcast. Apart from using it strategically for marketing purposes, you should also make it somewhat aesthetically pleasing to your followers. Now, one of the ways you can do that is with on-brand content. You need to imagine that if someone saw a post without knowing who published it, the user would instantly be able to recognize it just from your unique style. To create on-brand content, you must have a podcast brand identity, which also includes a podcast logo and specific brand colors. By the way, if you want to see a future video about podcast brand identity, let us know in the comments below. Brand colors are important because colors elicit emotions and feelings, plus they convey certain information. This enables listeners to form an initial impression without even knowing what your podcast is about. So, for example, if your podcast is about country living, then you'll likely opt for green and earthy type tones. But that would be different if you had, let's say, a true crime podcast, which would mesh well with dark, mysterious hues. Last, but certainly not least, mix your feed up between video, reels, IGTV, audio, and static images to give it some diversity. Remember, the key here is to create content that will grab people's attention and get them to stop scrolling. Which brings us to tip number 3. Take advantage of everything that Instagram has to offer, and this includes stories, reels, and IGTV. Now, let's start with stories. If you're wondering why it's worth putting time into something which is only in the ether for 24 hours, think again. Stories are a fresh and engaging way to announce new content or immediate news to your followers. When used correctly, stories can give you a way to interact with your audience via direct comments and questions, increase listener engagement by adding a poll, and also a great space to tag guests. You can even include links to your stories to recent podcast episodes. That is huge. Now, while stories are the place to interact and nurture your audience, reels are perfect to increase your visibility. If you didn't already know, reels are Instagram's answer to the TikTok boom. Since you can post reels directly to your grid, they allow your hard work to be seen longer than stories do. Shorter videos have higher engagement rates, and the main consumers of Reels are between the age of 24-34. So Gen Zers and also millennials. Now, if it suits your brand and target audience, feel free to get creative and make fun content with current TikTok style trends. Otherwise, you can turn your existing podcast audio into an easily consumable video. Any audiograms you have already created can be seamlessly transformed into Reels and posted on your grid. Now, if you're camera shy, then don't worry. Instead of filming yourself in front of the camera, choose some of your best sound bites from your latest podcast episode and match them with images or videos. And voila! Last but not least, there is IGTV, which is perfect for longer style videos. If you want to post a longer clip of your podcast episode, then this is the perfect place to do that. Not only that, but you can go live on Instagram during the recording of your podcast, or if you want to do an audience Q&A and then save it as an IGTV so it can be available forever. So there you have it. One thing to remember about all of these tips is they won't work if you aren't consistent. So if you plan on posting 3 posts per week and a reel, then keep doing that and you'll eventually see results. The secret to Instagram is consistency. And don't get discouraged if your Instagram doesn't blow up in 2 months. Let's put this into context. In a Facebook discussion about marketing, Laura from the Steel Magnolias podcast wrote, "It seems like it takes forever to grow Instagram followers organically. We've put in a lot of work. Commenting on relevant accounts, following others, posting consistently, and we've grown from 450 followers to 1,200 followers in 5 months. That's about a growth of 150 followers per month, which might not seem earth-shattering. So keep at it and also be realistic about growing your Instagram account." Once you've got your content to where you want it, don't forget to embed your Instagram account to your website or podcast site. Last but not least, don't forget to connect with other podcasters. It's great to feel part of a community, and Instagram is perfect for that. If you love this video and want to see more, smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell to be notified when we share a new video. And if you have any questions, please comment below and we will be more than happy to answer them. Until next time, happy podcasting.